Hey guys, Wolfie here and welcome back to the channel. As always, the usual disclaimer and the opinion here is mine and mine alone. Now you might have noticed very briefly, this particular watch I have does have a new wristband. Long story short, the old wristband snapped. I was on my way home from work late last week and I went through Amazon. Thankfully they were able to find, I was able to order a replacement band. I went with a stainless steel metal for obvious reasons, and this is for those who know me very well. Now, regarding this particular video, I was originally going to do a singular topic that I've already had planned, along with a Reddit story, but in light of what I've been seeing on social media lately, I am going to do a bit of a speed round of a few things I've caught, in a sense of attention wise. Before I go into that story in particular, so some stuff I've caught screenshots of, so you guys get to see what I mean. And for those of you who are aware that I'm in the Chicago area, yes, I know ICE is not far from me. I'm doing my best, to keep myself safe above everything else. That's pretty much why I spend most of my weekend at home, and with this one right over here keeping me company. Sandy is like the best kitty for me. Anywho, the varying things I have screenshots of, I found them all on Instagram in some capacity. I was just gonna give you a speed round version of what that image is, so that you guys get to know the TLDR version of my thoughts on that. So without any further delay, let's go. Now you see here, this is from Black Club Shy, Shy being short for Chicago. That is the Instagram handle you see here on the top of this particular screenshot. So Starbucks is closing some locations. Now those of you who live in the city of Chicago, some of these locations that are being closed in Chicago are coming true due to nationwide restructuring. This is in light of what you may have heard about Starbucks as of late. My biggest concern here, with people losing their jobs for reasons beyond their control, this could make the current administration look worse than they already are. And that's all I'm going to say about that. Now, some people may be putting the blame on Biden or Obama, but are either one of them the president right now? No. And with the some of the Starbucks closures happening in Chicago, it's it may open the door for more competition, but it also may drive people away from Chicago altogether. There's a bit of a wait and see in that regard. Now, for those of you who are into the NFL, that's something I'm not into, but for those of you who are, some of you guys may have heard the whole thing with Chicago Bears, new stadium, so on and so forth. So it looks like the people who own the Chicago Bears organization, they are going to move. They are really into moving to Arlington Heights. And if you look at the proposal of the new stadiums between the one that you see for Arlington Heights and the one for Chicago, it's like the Bears organization screwed this up really bad. And the main reason I say this is a really bad idea, it may surprise some people, and that is sources of public transportation to and from the game. Now, for those of you who may be aware, when it comes to the major cities, and I do include Seattle on this, even though Seattle is nowhere near as big as Chicago in sense of population, but I've been to Seattle 3 times, and they do have really solid public transport, but that's besides the point. This is Chicago, not Seattle. Now, Chicago has the city, in the sense of city limits, there are a lot more options for public transport in Chicago than it is for Arlington Heights. And you're kind of wondering, Wolfie, you sound like you're talking out of your ass. Well, guess what? For a while, I worked in Palatine. Palatine, Illinois is a suburb of Chicago. And it's not easily, since it's like going from Palatine to Chicago, it's not as easy as opposed to, let's say, Rosemont or Skokie. And having worked in Palatine for a little over a year for my employer, like the public transportation, like in Palatine, and I do want to mention that for one of the sources of Chicagoland area public transport is known as the Metro train. There is a Metro line that goes into Wisconsin. There's also another Metro line that goes into Indiana. But there is a Metro line that goes northwest into Harvard, Illinois, and with Palatine and Arlington Heights being on that particular line. So I had to take the Metro from Chicago to Palatine to and from for a little over a year. And like I said, it is not easy because of where Palatine is. Now, knowing that Arlington Heights is on the same Metro line as Palatine, this creates a lot of headaches. People are saying on Instagram, oh, people will be wanting to like travel northwest to Arlington Heights, but people need to factor in one major element, and that is the cost of gas. To and from, and it's not cheap. Because you're going on that's like a fraction of a tank one way. Now, with public transport, like in Arlington Heights, Barrington, Palatine, it's a more spotty than it is in Chicago proper. Now, there are people who are residing in Palatine. I was going to say Palatine Heights. I mean Arlington Heights. So people who reside in the Arlington Heights area probably don't want the Bears to move up in their direction, because you're talking about relocating the quote-unquote concerns people have had, meaning crime, theft, loud noise, so on and so forth. And people with those type of worries need to realize that when it comes to disturbing the peace in any format, along with crimes, that happens everywhere. And the most important statistic involving crime is not so much the raw number, but the per capita. And the per capita is likelihood. The higher you're, like, if you put like two cities like side by side, one with a much larger population over the other, you get the same raw number of crime being committed. The smaller town is going to have a higher per capita, thus making it more dangerous because of per capita as opposed to raw numbers alone. So, to the Chicago Bears, they should really think about staying in Chicago as opposed to Arlington Heights, because there's public transport, and then there's another thing that people don't really know, and this affects the state of Illinois, not just the city of Chicago, is the budget tied to public transport. Now, I have to look into this a little bit, but there has been some talks about a budget shortfall that goes into effect in 2026, which would affect availability of varying aspects of public transport, which makes Arlington Heights an even more disastrous decision. So if I were the owners of the Chicago Bears organization, stay in Chicago because of the whole thing with the public transport, and unfortunately, if the public transport part of the budget isn't resolved in time, we're looking at reduced availability, and I'm not so sure if people are willing to travel to Arlington Heights without sacrificing a major amount of money. Just for gas, just for a ticket, isn't even worth it. Now we have some information regarding a new Street Fighter live action movie. And you're kind of wondering why I was laughing a little bit at this just now. It's because I've seen on VHS the original live action Street Fighter movie, and it's just like, there are variances for people kind of wondering, is it going to, what the F? And if you look at what we see here for the casting for variant characters, you could probably, some might be able to tell who's going to portray who. So this is something I definitely have to double check. However, with that all out of the way, now I am highly concerned for this because you're talking about a new live action Street Fighter movie, and we know we're not going to see anything from the original Street Fighter video game. I mentioned this specific video game because you're talking about regarding the OG Street Fighter video game. You're talking no M. Bison, no Balrog, no Chun-Li. There's several characters that were never in the original Street Fighter video game. So regarding this, what you see here with this particular screenshot is that we're probably looking at least, I want to say at least is no earlier than Street Fighter 2 in the sense of the events. Now, for those of you, like, I'm going to like put into the factor of the entire franchise in the sense of like what I can remember in the order of events. So you have Street Fighter 1, Street Fighter 2, you have Street Fighter 4, 5, then you have Street Fighter 3, then you have Street Fighter 6. That's the order of events. Now, regarding this specific screenshot, you're talking either Street Fighter 2, 4, or 5. It's going to be one of those three where this screenshot is based off of, because you have here your cast, and I'm hoping that this is better than the original Street Fighter live action movie. That's all I got to say about that. And I do wonder, and you kind of see this like here and there at some point, is that will we see a casting change at some point, like during filming or after the fact? Now, this is all I know regarding the specific news. So we know the cast, we don't know when it's going to come out. So based on this, I won't be surprised if we see a 2027 release on the matter. And I say, now the next set of news involves a movie. The reason why I feel we're going to see a 2027 release for this is because of the next topic. And that is Mortal Kombat 2. Now, don't get this confused with Mortal Kombat Annihilation. Yes, the one where great fights, but the storyline sucked. That's all I have to say on Mortal Kombat Annihilation. So, this movie, you see the date here, the 15th of May, 2026. Now, this is a date of a delay. Now, it was originally supposed to be coming out in a few weeks from the time of this recording, but it has been delayed to the May of 2026. Now, I mentioned this delay because I probably won't be surprised if we get an initial date for the Street Fighter movie that I just mentioned a little bit ago, and that gets delayed somewhat. So, now the concerns I have with this particular, like, not so much delay, but the movie itself. Yes, I've seen the trailer, but the other concerns I have is competition. Now, what competition am I talking about? Now, competition number one is the new Super Mario Brothers movie. Now, I saw the original, not the original live action one from the 90s. I never saw that one. But I'm referring to the first animated Super Mario Brothers movie, which is good. Yeah, I have to give credit where it's due. So, you're talking about the Mortal Kombat 2 movie that's coming out in May of 2026. Now, this comes out a little more than a month beforehand. Now, that's a bit of like, it's a bit of the time is like, it makes me a little concerned. Now, what will concern me a little bit more is the new Toy Story movie that's coming out in June. Now, this I really didn't expect to see this on Instagram, but you're talking about two movies here in close proximity to the new dates for the Mortal Kombat 2 movie. So, and because of this, the timing it's like, yeah, cinemas really want everybody, to come out and support, but we're talking some degree of uncertainty, and you're looking at politics being a major player as to why. Now, the potential saving grace for Mortal Kombat 2 in the sense of like any hope of longevity in the cinema would be to see a different date for either Toy Story 5 or Super Mario Bros. 2. So these two get a different date. I would not be surprised if Mortal Kombat 2 gets a bit of a stronger holding because there's not as much competition like tied to it. Now, I do it now. I'm not referring to this right here, the Battle of Songbirds and Snakes, but the fifth book, which is Sunrise on the Reaping. Now, I did a little bit of digging here. There are a couple of characters in sense of casting have been confirmed. And I'm referring to Sunrise on the Reaping by using this for like reference here. Now, there is going to be a younger Haymitch. There is a completely different actor. Now, I know, like, his love interest, and I'm referring to Haymitch's love interest in Sunrise of the Reaping. So, spoiler alert, yes, Haymitch has a love interest. Anywho, so there are two characters that are confirmed in the sense of who's, like, getting casted. Haymitch being one, and then his love interest, I forgot the woman's name. I think it's Lenore. Yeah, I think it's Lenore that is confirmed to be the other character. Now, this gentleman right here who has portrayed a younger President Snow, I would not be surprised if he comes back to reprise that role. Now, as for other characters, it remains to be seen. Now, it's not a concern, man, but it's actually a good concern. Now, I'm concerned as to whether or not Woody Harrelson comes back in a much smaller capacity as the grown-up Haymitch. Because we do know that, if you read the original trilogy, that Haymitch comes out alive at the end of Mockingjay. And Mockingjay is essentially like the entire story. Mockingjay is where this entire saga ends. So, the end of Mockingjay, Haymitch survives everything. So the only question comes out to is whether or not Woody Harrelson comes back as Haymitch, but in a smaller capacity. Possibly some narration, I would not be surprised, but it's something I am hopeful of. Now, this gentleman right here, I do hope he comes back to reprise the younger Snow. Now, my only concern, and it's a bit of a worry, as to how, like, when it comes to like the sixth book, now it comes down to which Victor is featured in that one, and who will portray President Snow at that time. But that's gonna be another video for another day. Now, when I get around to do a revised spoiler for the book version of this, Battle of the Songbirds and Snakes, I'm gonna be going into like the Sunrise of the Reaping a little bit, the book. And what I think, like, what's going to be for book number 6, because I did read that things that led up to the Hunger Games and all that's probably in the works in the sense of like the 7th, 8th, 9th books, but it's probably going to be yet another prequel. And then we're probably going to see the original trilogy as like Star Wars episodes 7 through 9. That's just my opinion. Now for this particular story, I'm going to check right now to see if there's any update to this. So it is under, is this the Am I the Asshole family, specifically Am I the Asshole relationship. So this is no description 5068. So I'm going to see if this particular story has an update to it. So let me double check, see if I'm trying to see there's an update. Okay. So, so this story does not have an update as of yet. However, this is one of those stories where there's going to be an update coming whether we like it or not. And you're going to be seeing potential trigger warnings as I go along. So the name of this particular post is, Am I the Asshole for Not Attending My Boyfriend's Brother's Wedding? So OP in this case, original poster case, nobody knows what OP stands for. So this particular OP is the 31-year-old female. She has been with her boyfriend on and off for about 17 years. Yeah. So that's pretty much it. So they're not married. They have 3 kids together, are ages 7, 10, and 13. So basically, this is pretty much the only person this particular OP has ever been with. He has want to take into effect that yes, they are not married, and yes, it's on and off. It's because you see here in the very second sentence that they've had breakups in their teens and early 20s, but all in all, it's been 17 years total. So meaning that this is the only person she's ever been with, which raises concerns, in my opinion, right out of the gate. So it says here in the next following sentence, over our entire relationship, I've made it very clear that marriage is deeply important to me. I want to share a name with my children. Want to dance with my dad. I want my last living grandparent to see me get married, etc. Which I feel we're seeing some incompatibility. The biggest factor being that I'd really love just to be married to my partner. I've loved him since I was a child. He said that being married is stupid and pointless. It's just a piece of paper. I've tried to explain over and over throughout many years that it means more to me than that. Which screams incompatibility. Recently, his brother got engaged and asked the partner to be part of his wedding. He agreed to it, and when he told me about it, I just said, okay, but I'm not going. And it's been hell in my home ever since. We barely speak anymore. I don't want to go. I don't want to watch him walk down the aisle with a stranger on his arm. I don't want to have dinner alone while he sits with the wedding party. I don't want to put myself through what I know is going to be emotional torture. It's all just an incredibly painful thought. He, as well as my own family, had made sure to tell me how awful I am for this. I'm so wrong. I should be there. It would hurt him if I wasn't, etc. Am I really in the wrong here? Am I missing something? Why is nobody understanding how much this would hurt me? All I wanted was to quietly sit this one out. That's all. It's turned into a war, and I'm not sure what to do from here. Am I the asshole? Truly? Now, we're going to go into this particular user's, some of the replies. This person has replied to me, so we're going to see. So I'm going to go into the comments here. So I'm going to go into some of the replies here so you guys get to see. Now, we see here this OP replied to this comment, he's not going to marry you. And then she said, we've gathered as much, so I'm not so sure, it's just I think OP is realizing that they're not going to get married ever. And again, there is a severe incompatibility. I mean, OP's only mistake at this point was giving him kids. So, okay, so now we have here, this is a comment I really didn't pay much attention to at first, but I'm going to look at this a little bit more clearly. So the comment says, he has no intentions of marrying you, and now that you've stayed and have 3 kids with him, do you really think he'll change? I hope you have an independent career and a financial situation, money, meaning that you have your shit together. Now, this is what OP said in response to that. I think I less expected him to change his mind and more expected some understanding on why I wouldn't want to do something like this. I'd pretty much already given up asking about it at this point. I do not want a pity proposal, but when this came up, it became a fresh wound all over again. I do work and I have my own savings. I don't believe he would ever leave me in a bad position, but I'm safe no matter what. So it looks like OP is pretty much has herself set, which is a hopeful sign. So in response to OP's response, you are not safe no matter what. What happens if he has an accident or a medical issue tomorrow? You don't have status as a wife or a medical power of attorney. I'm going to upvote this because I forgot. I mean, yeah. I know the whole thing with power of attorney stuff. I've been one for my mom years ago. It would be his parents or brother making any decisions. Same for you. He would not be the person to protect you in a medical situation. Do you both have wills that name each other as beneficiary? How about life insurance? You need to look at the legal benefits of marriage and make sure you are covered on all bases. Don't wait. And then OP responds to that saying, I meant financially, like if I needed, I could get an apartment in the car, and my car is in my own name, meaning that she does have something like sense of setup. These are all great points, though. It's some things that I haven't even thought about. Thank you. So I agree. I like OP's response to that. It's like, yeah, there are some legal stuff that I don't think the partner even thought about. I wish you well. So many people don't realize the medical implications, which is damn good advice for a couple that's incompatible. Now, this is what she said to me. Now, so this is pretty much what I asked. Info, how's your relationship with his brother? Because it really wasn't addressed much, if at all, in the post. So I asked, how's your relationship with his brother? Are you two civil / get along? That's one item missing here. As others have said, reevaluate your relationship because you and your boyfriend sound incompatible, especially when you've been on and off for more than a decade. You might need to start looking into co-parenting and child support / custody. The brother should be aware that his wedding plans is putting a massive strain on your relationship, which I stand by because you have to start thinking about it, the legal implications. Now, this is what OP said to me. It's fine. We're civil and friendly, but not close in any way. I don't even think I have his number in my phone. Which gives up a hint, a major one, that his family may not like OP. They're civil because of the kids, but if they're not close, that's something more major. And then this one replies to OP. You realize that so pretty much the whole thing here. So it says here, so this person says it depends on where she is from. In many places, common law relationships are legally the equivalent of marriage, especially if the couple has children. So there's that's the biggest mystery we have here is where does this OP particularly live? Well, common law relationships being the equivalent of marriage. And you're talking about two people who are basically butting heads on the realm of marriage. Now, let me see if I can find anything here. Okay, so it says here, let me grab this particular comment. So it says here, pointless is stupid, da-da-da-da-da. Now, we do have some information on his family. So his parents divorced when he was young, maybe around 8 to 10 years old. Her OP's parents been around since they were teenagers. They got married when OP was 5, and OP is the oldest. They're still married to this day, enjoying their empty nest. So it says here, could be that the divorce left him with some trauma or insecurities about that he's never learned to deal with. It still is a question of would he want to get therapy, and what happens if he says no. So it says here from OP, I'm certain that could be possible for anyone, I'm sure. I've never given him a reason to believe that I will ever abandon him clearly, but maybe he has something he needs to resolve internally that doesn't have anything to do with me. Suggesting therapy isn't ever a bad idea, especially in cases like this where I really don't see it just resolving itself. I'll try to find the right time to mention it. I like this OP because you got an OP here that is as proactive as can be. So that's that. So. 'Cause, 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 Now, what I think about this particular story, what do I think about this particular OP or situation? Now, at the end of the day, without an update and some key context information, and this OP gets not the asshole all across the board. The reason being is that she gives it like a decent amount of information in the post itself, and she gives detailed information in her comments, including the response to me that you've seen about her being like okay-ish with his family, and because of the reason of incompatibility on a very major topic. This is not the asshole. If I were this particular OP, I would get an apartment or a house that fits you and all the kids, get child custody and child support like arranged like yesterday. Because you two are clearly incompatible, and unless we find out something that he's actually going to go into therapy to address the whole thing with marriage, this is not going to work out in the end. I would just say just get ready for child support, child custody, get those arrangements in place. And that's that on that. So, regarding everything, it's just like it is what it is. But to the OP that I just mentioned, I hope you get the child support, child custody arrangements, start looking into co-parenting, because you two are clearly incompatible and he needs to get into some major therapy. And that's all I have with Wolvie here, signing off. I will catch you all on the flip side.